You're going to set up. This is your 330. It is shaped like a pear. This is basically the only burr that you're ever going to put on your handpiece first when you set up. So when you load your high speed, you're going to put your 330 in there, just like that. And it's just righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. This is a chuck, and it acts as a screwdriver. And you just tighten it until it tightens, and that's it. Okay, and then you pull this back and pull up. See how it just stretches out like that? It's just a screwdriver. This is your screw that goes in there to tighten and loosen your burrs. Okay, so we've got our 330 on. You're going to start with your 330 on your high speed, and you want it loaded. And you want to test it, because you don't want to have your dentist sit down and pick up their high speed to start and see if you hook it up to the wrong hose. So you always want to make sure that you put them on, test them. On your slow speed, which is this one, you will start out with your round burr.
How do you know which hose to put it on?
Hear it blow out.
Just so you guys know how these work, since you're recording, all these hoses have little latches here. When it's hung up, that locks the hose. It's not going to turn on when you hit the rheostat because there's something in its place, okay? So if I have this one up, hit the rheostat, and it turns on. See how I had to switch it? That's because I'm locking the wrong one. So if I move it over here, then it's going to turn on. Got it? Okay, so if your hoses are mixed up, just play around with it, try to figure out which one it is. Technically, you want your high speed on this one and your slow speed on this one, but for the sake of being crunched for time, I'm just going to go, okay? Slow speed, next one. You just go on right like this, line up your pins, screw it. You're going to start with your round burr. This one is your round burr. If you notice the difference between your high-speed burrs and your slow-speed burrs, you have what's called a friction grip and a latch hook. See that? How it's got like a groove and a latch? So you have your friction grip goes on high speed. Anything that has a latch goes on your slow speed. So then we're going to attach it to the slow speed. You will have two different pieces. You'll have the motor, and then you will have a contra angle attachment. Okay, to attach it, just pull this down, put it over that, and release it. To attach your burr, this just flips on and off. You're going to put your burr in here. Your burr is shaped kind of like a half moon. So you put it in here, and if you look at the back and just kind of turn it around till it lines up, and then lock it. And then always pull on it and test it. These cords. Okay. If you test it and it's not working, there is an off button, a forward button, and a reverse. It was an off, so you always want it in forward. And now it's working, okay? The rest of your burrs that you're going to have set up for your endo is your 557, which is like a long, straight, fissured burr. Then you have your mandrel. Technically, I like for you guys to always, this is a high-speed mandrel. I always like you guys to get out the slow speed. So this one is a friction grip. You want the one that has the latch grip on it, okay? I couldn't find it at the moment, so I grabbed that. You want a sandpaper disc. You just attach your sandpaper disc like this. The darker the color, the more coarse the grit. The lighter the color, the finer the grit. Just like real sandpaper you go to the hardware store and buy. If you only need to smooth something, you know, real quickly, it's not going to take a whole lot, then you wouldn't want to use a black because that's a coarse. If you don't want to take off a lot, don't get a black, okay? Then you have your Gates Glidden. This is used to debride the canal, to clean out all that gunk. This goes on your slow speed. Then you have a flame, because for the proficiency, you guys are going to do the root canal, then you're going to finish it off with a resin filling. So you want your flame to smooth the resin down when you place the filling. This is your burr block. So you got all your burrs in here, your handpiece is hooked up. We have our Mirror Explorer periodontal probe, a large condenser. This is your root canal, I call it a plugger, root canal plugger. Resin instrument, and this is a glick, I believe. You will not use this during your proficiency, but I have you guys get it out just so you get familiar with it. But they've got measurements on one end, and it almost acts as if it is a resin instrument. Okay. Your etch, your bond, your resin, crown scissors, cotton pliers. You need your articulating paper forceps and your articulating paper. Then you have your paper points. You need a small square mixing pad with a little bit of cava on it. You get your cava out ahead of time because you don't want to contaminate the whole jar. Gutta percha points. This is measurements to measure what? Yes, you want to measure your working length. So if your dentist says this canal is 10 millimeters long, then you can put a rubber stopper at 10 millimeters so that it doesn't go through and puncture. You can cut your paper points and not your paper points, but your gutta percha so that it's all at the correct length. Okay, so that's what this is for. You have your rubber stoppers, your 2x2s. I don't know if I said paper points already, and your gutta percha. You have your files and your reamers. Okay, so you want both files and reamers out. Your dental dam forceps. I don't know why I got 2 bite blocks out. You only need one.
One of them was mine.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
And, oh, irrigation. So you want your, basically it's bleach water. Okay, so you want your bleach water and you want your syringe to irrigate. For the sake of nobody getting punctured or stabbed, I took the needle out, but in office you will have a needle attached to it because you need to irrigate and it needs to be small enough to get into a canal. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You guys will need to practice pulling this up with single-handed. Okay? Alright. To assist,
I got that down.
first thing you're going to do, oh, and you want your topical, which I have a cotton. There it is, it's hiding. Don't forget your topical and your anesthetic. So you put your topical on. You said no light for video. We'll just do 224, I guess. Is that too bright?
Yeah, it's too bright.
Okay. So you put your topical on, then you would numb. Candace would be passing all this to me, but we're just gonna pretend to get through that. Okay, great. Our patient's numb. Then what's the first thing you always pass your dentist?
Mirror and Explorer.
Mirror and Explorer. Okay. She passed me my Mirror and Explorer. I'm like, yep, great. Root canal time. Okay. So I'm going to actually do this, hopefully before Jordan gets here, so that you guys can see it. All right. So we're gonna do a root canal on tooth 24. I need a good stable. Oh no, did you guys adjust it again? Alright. If it is an anterior and it's not like severely decayed or something like that, maybe it was a trauma, the reason why you have to have a root canal done is trauma. So you will have your entrance point on the lingual side of the tooth, whether it's maxillary or mandibular. So they're just going to make a little tiny hole to enter into the nerve. Once they've reached the canal, then they're going to go down into the canal. See if I can do this without going through the front side of it. Alright, so then, once you do that, Candace would rinse it out because you want to be able to clean it, so see down in there, so she's going to rinse it. Then I'm going to take my Gates Glidden and debride it. The reason I have this on here, if it were a molar that we were doing, we would use our slow speed to get all of the nerve and debris out of the crown portion of the molar before we go down into the canal. But this is an anterior, so I'm going to take it off and switch it over to Gates Glidden. Then I'm going to take my Gates Glidden down to the canals, debride them. Oh, darn it. Thought I had it in there. Okay. Okay, then she's going to rinse that out again. Then she's going to pass me files and reamers. Your dentist is going to tell you what size of what to pass. You guys can just pick for the sake of getting through it. Okay. Now we're going to irrigate it. So we're going to irrigate. And now she's going to pass paper points. When you guys pass your paper points, there's a little tab up here, okay? So you just pull this tab back, peel it back. Then you're going to take this side, peel it back. Will you hold that for me? Mm-hmm. So then you hold it as close to the mouth as possible, and then your dentist is just going to grab them like this. You would have a tube, kind of like it doing an extraction, a 2x2 in your hand too. And the reason that I teach you guys to hold a 2x2 like this is for when I put them in here like this, that way you know where they are, because these can easily get back into the canal or the oral cavity and the patient choke on them. Okay, so once that's dry, the canal is dry, then she's going to give me gutta percha. I explained to a couple girls earlier, gutta percha, typically you will see it come in a syringe like this. It will be the same color, but it'll come in a syringe, and you just put the tip down into the canal, and then you'll express it and fill it up. Okay, we don't have that. We have these. We're going to pretend that this is the expressible gutta percha. We're filling up our canal, that way it's not hollow and brittle. Then we're going to top it off with Cavit. Will you hold this for me? Mm-hmm. Let me teach you a little trick about Cavit. When you put it on there, if you kind of roll it in a hot dog like that, and then you pass your dentist the condenser, then they can just get off how much they need, just like that, and go straight to the mouth. And what we're doing is sealing in that gutta percha. Okay, we don't want the gutta percha to work its way out, right? We want it to stay put. So we seal the entry access point with our Cavit. Now it's time to put the filling on it. So then we go into, you can assist for this part. You should know this part.
Ooh, girl.
We're just going to fill it with a resin.
Put me on the spot.
That way it matches the tooth colors. Do you know what step we're at?
No.
If we put Cavit on and we're getting ready to start the resin, first thing you do with the resin is you Mm-hmm. So then you're going to put etch on. How long does it stay on for?
20 seconds.
See how I expressed it on my glove and it made a mess? So I'm just going to use that. Okay, so she's going to leave this on for 20 seconds. It's her job as the assistant to count the 20 seconds. When the 20 seconds is up, she's going to rinse it off.
Very twisted.
I know, these are terrible today.
It's one of the little too, so you're not going to fix it? I hope so.
See how she did that without making a mess? And then
where's the the bond. Okay. Throw me off.
Give me that curing light, Albie. I did forget something, girls.
Do you want me to actually?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll really do it. We haven't really done one for a long time. What would you want to do before I put the bond?
Dry.
Yep. Anytime you're dealing with etch, not etch, yes. Anytime you're dealing with resin or bond, the area has to be 100% dry. And even when you think it's dry, keep drying.
And the light.
Okay, so she's going to have her bond in one hand, she's going to have a curing light in the other. Once you put the bond on, she's going to come in and she's going to cure it.
Don't look at the light.
Yes, never look at the light, it will burn your retinas.
I looked at it.
We always look at
it.
Yeah.
It only takes about 2 seconds to burn your eyeballs up.
Someone did look at it.
I think it was Katie, maybe.
Probably.
I was looking at that meme video where it's like when you look at the light, the kid's like.
Then she's going to pass the resin and the resin instrument. she will have both in her hand because this is not very big. I basically am just covering up this access point with resin. It's not like a cavity. And she's going to have one last thing in her hand because once I'm ready... Hi, Jordan!
Hi.
Once I'm ready, she's going to go in and cure. And go ahead.
What you guys want to mean?
Or Canal.
And then we're going to check the bite, make sure it's good. You can take it off. So she'll pass the articulating paper. And okay, bite together. We just want to make sure that the patient's not biting on it, hitting on it. That is one ugly, ugly looking hot mess I got going on. But
Cute.
just so you guys can see, is
The finishing burr.
the finishing burr. And I
Good
don't
job, Dave.
think I showed it to you guys.
Very good.
This is
Good job, Dave.
your gold finishing burr. This is what you use to finish and polish resins. And oh. Okay. Just polish it up real good, and then you're going to check the bite one more time. Bite, bite, bite. Great. And then you give them their post-op instructions.